and $250,000 a year for a select few of your recommendations, and I believe they were around creating a staff position to support an ongoing task force within the Department of Commerce, creating, I think it was 2 half-time positions within the Department of Commerce around coordinating the dig as folks are digging up streets to make sure that all the broadband issues are addressed at the same time. The fiber collaboration database and dig once program. And so those are the small elements of your recommendations that the government included funding in this budget for.
And we thank the governor for that. We hope that this is something that survives the next part of the process, the conversation that happens with the legislature. And we did have a nice discussion with both Representative Johnson and Senator Sparks about their interest in the other portions of it as well. But we do appreciate this vote of confidence in our work. We have all been working hard over the last 13 months to give a clearer picture of how to reach these things. Ms. Kelly, I think one of the things that struck me when you were talking about the economic development section of the budget is that, and certainly sharing this with the commissioner and with other staff in the governor's office, that this is a key piece of economic development around the state. The access to high-speed, border-to-border broadband. We visited many, many companies around the state who said, if we could not get this high-speed broadband to us, we would not be as successful as we are today. And those that have limitations on being able to receive high-speed broadband know that that's a problem for them. And so I think that as a tool, it's a tool in our modern day as important and equaling some of the other things that we take for granted every day, the roads we drive on, the water and sewer lines that run to a development, those sorts of things that are core pieces of government. And we're not even saying that government should do all this. I think what we're saying is that there's actually providers who, with public-private partnership, are willing to deliver on what's needed out there. So I think if that's shared back, we think this is a wise investment.
It is an economic development strategy.
Just a quick question about when you budget. You mentioned that there was funding for 1 FTE and 2 part-time FTEs. But dollar-wise, is there a number? What is it, 80,000 for full-time? I'm just trying to get a sense of.
Yeah. How do you do the calculation?
250,000 a year. How much of it goes to staff?
I believe that the Department of Commerce has those numbers as we built this budget. I believe it's around $70,000 for the salaries for each FTE. And then there's some costs associated with ancillary costs of having an employee there. And then there was some costs put in here for just the support of the task force. So the department put that together thinking that it would be adequate.
So I have a question. Yeah. So we talked about logistical resources. So is some of it, I'm assuming we have connected so that does certain things, we would just basically say what are the gaps and what else do we need from a support perspective within that?
And I think that that's one of the things that needs to come through the legislation.
Sure. Okay.
It's actually fascinating you asked that, because I just started teaching last night a course at the Humphrey called Transforming Public Policy, which is the policy analysis and implementation course there. And, you know, one of the things we were talking about is people have good ideas all the time, right? And the good ideas come through in ideas like this to become legislation, and then a recommendation in legislation. But the devil is often in the implementation, and whether these positions can fully augment what's already going on in the Department of Commerce, what's already happening with Connect Minnesota. People people have heard us talk about the need for someone with modeling capabilities around this. We think that's critical to be able to understand where the investment should even be. It's a gap in our system. So yes, I think that's the next steps, and I think that can happen both legislatively and with continued work with the Department of Commerce as well.
Right, they can provide you more specifics about how they envision these dollars being used to support gaps in the system.
Other questions?
I've gotten questions from some task force members just about the mechanics of the next steps of the budget process. So if you could sort of give a, 101 to some, about where this will go now, that'd be helpful, I think, to some people here.
Sure, and correct me at any point along the way, but this is kind of the first act. If it's a 3-act play, this would be Act 1. Act 2 would be the legislature kind of pulling it apart and making it their own. Act 3 would be the negotiations to come to a final bill. So this will now be heard in front of the Commerce Committee, I think it's the Environment Committee, I'm not sure in which body, and I think it's the Economic Development Committee and the other body. So this will be heard in front of those committees. Committee chairs will make decisions about what to include within their funding package. So that would be your opportunity to try and make it what you would want. If you wanted more pieces added to this, you would need to negotiate with the legislature. The legislature will be negotiating with the governor on overall spending within set target. You probably want to look at the specifics of the bill language. So the governor's budget bills will probably be coming out in the next week to 10 days, and Commerce can show that to you.
I think there's absolutely what Ms. Kelly said. I think there is a walk-on on the stage in late February, and that's an updated budget forecast, and that certainly will play a factor in all of this in terms of if things are better or worse and what the predictions are. There's parts of governors' budgets that always have an update to them after that point.
Right, so our February forecast comes out in 28th of February this year. That updates our November forecast, so we know whether we're dealing with $1 billion deficit, or if it's grown, or if it's shrunk. And if it has shrunk, then the governor will adjust his package to show either lowered spending or lowered revenue, or increased spending, lowered revenue, some combination of that. If the deficit is growing, he'll have to adjust his budget to accommodate for that as well, by either increasing revenues to cover the gap or reducing spending to cover the gap. So that will happen shortly after the end of February, probably within the first week or two of March. Those changes will come out, and then it's kind of game on, scramble to the end to close things up by May 15th.
Other questions?
I have one question. I do. What can I say? Budget fresh. So on the sales tax changes, in Minnesota, we obviously have municipalities that have a local option sales tax that's currently at Newton and Hennepin County, for example. With the lowering of the rate, that addition will still be there on the lower rate, but for the new items being brought into the sales tax, will their add-on automatically be applied to those items? So to buy a $100 item of clothing in Minneapolis will cost more than it would to buy it outside of Hennepin County? Is that my correct understanding?
Correct. So there still will be local option sales tax that are in place, and the governor is not recommending changing those. So typically they're in a percentage amount, so it's a 0.5% or 1/4% add-on. Most local option sales taxes are dedicated to a specific purpose, like paying off debt for some construction project. Very few are just for general government purposes. So the governor is leaving it to the legislature to decide if those local option sales taxes should be adjusted with the base
Thank you.
All right, anything from the phone, folks? All right. Ms. Kelly, thank you for coming over. Say hi to Mr. Pollard.